It's that time when we bring you the program Rethinking Nigeria, a Perspective. Hello and welcome. I'm Lanre Lasese. As always, we focus on the national conference, and this week was eventful in a different way as the conference commenced another phase of their work, the consideration of the different committee reports. We have highlights of the week's deliberations. We also have a chat with our regular guest, but that will come after a short look at the week in perspective. After 4 weeks of working in 20 different committees, it was time for delegates to come together again in plenary. It was time for committee chairmen to lay their reports.
From my count, we have 12 reports that have been submitted, and we have 8 outstanding.
The reports that were ready were distributed to delegates. The first report to be considered was that of the Committee on Citizenship, Immigration and Related Matters. Delegates commenced considering the different amendments proposed, but one amendment turned the mood in the House around.
Grazing reserves or ranches and new technologies such as the hydroponic fodder solution should be promoted by the states of the headsmen, who should dedicate funds efforts for the acculturation and acclimatization of herdsmen in settling down to designated grazing reserves and less nomadic lifestyle. My amendment is that their states should do that. It should not be an open thing where it will apply to other areas.
Point of order. Progress. Distinguished delegates, I am not going to put this issue to a vote now. I quoted the rules to you. The chairman, I don't have to put it to a vote. Will you please don't provoke me, please. I'm a diplomat, I keep my cool, but don't provoke me. What he says here is that you cannot reach a consensus before it is put to a vote. The chairman can adjourn proceedings on that issue. I agree the English have sold to you, and that's what I have ruled. I am not putting this to a vote.
The conference quickly adjourned for the day. Tensions threatened to rise the next day as a delegate, Ankyo Briggs, came forward to submit a minority report for the Committee on Devolution of Power after the leadership of the committee had laid the main report. It kicked off a debate immediately.
Sometimes when people will sit in court, sometimes somebody brings evidence, he tenders it, he didn't follow the rule. The court will receive it, but then it should be marked rejected. So this minority report, I rule that it will be accepted but marked rejected.
Some delegates, however, disagreed with this ruling. The conference, however, continued with its consideration of committee reports. A new amendment was proposed to resolve the confrontation that arose on the issue of herdsmen and grazing grounds the day before.
That this integrated development and modernization program should be funded by both the federal and state governments in states where such settlements are established.
All those in favor of this motion say aye. All those against, no, please, no, sir. All those against say no. Then this motion is passed. The ayes have it. Thank you.
Meanwhile, the conference chairman announced that the conference had been extended.
We visited the secretary to the government, and we were informed that the government is only granted us for 1 month, 4 weeks extension. We asked for 6. They were given only 4 weeks.
The chairman also used the chance to speak on reports of tenure elongation being canvassed by a delegate, saying the conference has nothing to do with the view.
The idea was from the man, but himself is not this conference that talked anything about tenure elongation of anybody at all. I forgot to say anything, but I thought it's better we announce to the whole world that this conference has nothing to do with any tenure elongation. We've never been approached by anybody, and nobody has talked to us or addressed us or any tenure elongation, whatever.
I had a chat with our regular guest, Mr. Pt1, the president and founder of ANAP Foundation, who is also a delegate at the conference. He started by telling me his assessment of how the week went.
I think the first week was always going to be the most important week because, you know, it's like you use the first week to establish a template. And if you have a formula that works, you then apply it seamlessly for all the other committee reports. And so that's why the very first committee report and the manner of debating it was clearly going to set the tone for the rest. And I think the leadership came up with a clever idea, you know, because it's difficult to manage a debate of 490 persons based on just people raising their hands to speak and so on. So they came up with a process that is actually in our rules, saying that if you've read the report, and you have something serious to say about it, then you submit your name in writing, you know, by a particular deadline, so that the chairman and the vice chairman have in front of them the list of names of delegates who have expressed a desire to either propose amendments or to discuss aspects of a report. Now, let's be careful. There is no law that says that just because you submit your name, the chairman must call on you, because the rules also allow for discretion on the chairman's part. Let me give you an example. What if, for instance, on this first report, which was on citizenship, immigration, and other matters, I would like to begin with citizenship. Okay. Immigration is not really controversial. Okay. You know, as it turned out, we were told 40 people submitted their names. Now, because that number was not unwieldy, if you noticed yesterday, the chairman called all the 40 people turn by turn. So there was no need jumping up, waving your hands and all that. If you followed that procedure, there would be order. As it turned out, I think we reported of the 40, those who spoke were 36, because the remaining 4, at the time we called their names, they were not in the Congress, in the auditorium, so they cannot complain. So everybody who had indicated he had a comment to make was given the chance and they commented. And then at the end of that, we now started going through the proposed amendments one by one, seeing whether the House would carry them. And many were subjected to a simple voice vote. In fact, all of them really. And in every case, it was clear whether the ayes had it or, you know, the nays. So we were actually moving nicely towards concluding, you know. And if that formula had worked all the way to the very end, it could have been applied for subsequent committees as well. The fear, of course, is that this time round there were 40 people that put their names down. Mm-hmm. What happens when you come to topic like devolution and you find that there are 240 names? Are you going to call all of them? So there's still a management task there for the chairman and vice chairman.
Because right now I'm also wondering, the issue of going around the method they used, mm-hmm. as regards even the amendments, you're not following it clause by clause. And
they followed them in the sequence with which they were proposed.
Yes, but not following the sequence of the reports.
It's a bit difficult. I mean, don't forget that these things are being done in real time. Okay. Imagine that 40 delegates speak. Mm-hmm. The first delegate speaks. His comment is on an item on page 40. Yes. The second delegate comes. His comment is on an item on page 2. If you want to now follow it at the end, page by page, then you have to rearrange everything and figure out which of those comments is first. So what they simply did was that, since they were logging each delegate's contribution, they then went back to the same log sheet. So if the first delegate raised an amendment on page 39, we took that first. If the second delegate raised an amendment on page 4, we took that next. It didn't matter really, because it was issues we were discussing.
Okay, now coincidentally it was your committee's report that was the first to be considered.
That's partly because we were the first to get ready.
Okay, well. Now, one of the amendments made to the report had to do with this national census exercise. Yes. And the amendment called for the inclusion of religion, tribe, and language as part of the details that should be collated during the exercise. Now, I'd like to understand, did you people consider this while you were
We considered it, and what we did was to endorse the formats of the last census, which did not call for that information. But some delegates felt, and look, there's no right or wrong in this matter. To me, it's not a big issue, that if you're going to take the trouble to mobilize people to go around doing a head count, that is actually a data gathering exercise. So it's a bit of a shame having sent some field workers to your house not to gather from you more information. So they felt that it's like a missed opportunity not to get more information at the same time. It simply means that the sheets that they bring to your house to fill out will be a bit longer.
Okay.
You know, because the usual information still has to be there, your date of birth, your age, all those things. So they wanted you to add that information.
You don't think the issue of number, religion, tribe, getting that into set numbers is also something that can be used?
You see, you cannot fault data gathering. Okay. What you can fault is what you use the data for. Okay. If it's a simple task of gathering data, the more data that you gather that is accurate, the more useful for those who are involved in managing the economy, managing society, and so on. So that, you cannot by itself fault data gathering. Okay. And like I said earlier, I think the point being made is that if it costs you 100 billion to organize field workers to go out and gather information, it costs you an extra 1 or 2 million to just add a few more lines of questions. In any case, you can't even force somebody to answer those questions. If you ask somebody for his religion and he tells you that he won't tell you, then you record it accordingly.
Okay. Now the process appeared to have been going very well when we're considering your report. But
yes, I think overall the report went down well. Let's begin with that.
It did.
People understood the law, and please let's be careful because that report was futuristic. At the end of the day, what we were talking about was moving Nigeria in a direction where once you were a Nigerian citizen, you could basically reside anywhere. We were encouraging free movement of persons, free movement of goods. We were accepting that in the 21st century, we are not going to be bogging down ourselves, arguing over issues of who is an indigene and who is the settler. So that basically the House bought into all that, which was very important. That was the most important aspect of the report. And I think it was interesting because you probably saw some amendments were proposed that were trying to challenge the central thesis of the report. Remember, some lady said, that you should only qualify you should only have the full rights as a resident if you spend 10 years. When it was put to the voice vote, even she herself failed to vote for it, so the whole House was against it. Yes. Somebody else proposed 5 years, the next person proposed 3 years, everything was thrown out. Because people realized that, who are you that you're going to sit down somewhere and subject me to a test and say whether or not I qualify to be accepted in the place where you are? Let's take the example of Lagos State. The real Lagos indigenes, original indigenes, how many are they? Perhaps 2 million, if they're lucky, if you're lucky. So can 2 million people sit down and decide the terms upon which they will accept, 20 million others who are supposedly settlers? It's out of the question. We are one nation, we are one people, one country, so that nobody has a right to tell me that I do not qualify to be in a place that I've pitched my tent, where I'm meeting all my dues, obligations. And that was the main thrust of the report, which everybody accepted.